Hello and welcome to the Client Blue Podcast post-match reaction, sponsored by NordVPN. For the best discount code available, there's a link in the top line of the description. I'm your host, Dan Rolinson, joined by Neil from the For the Love of Paul McGrath podcast. Now, Neil, I was going to start this by saying, have you calmed down yet from Wednesday's post-match against Juventus, which I watched, where you were rightly fuming. But I could tweet that. Are you calm after this afternoon?
No. I'm a bit more calmer after this afternoon because I think after the first 15 minutes, I was you couldn't just bear to watch some of the stuff that went on in the first half today. It was implausible that an Aston Villa team under Unai Emery would make such silly positional errors, silly passing errors. For a main game that's on TV and the whole lot of the UK would be watching that today, Aston Villa looked really amateur at times today. And that was not a good advertisement for Aston Villa Football Club. Have I calmed down? I'm a bit more loose about this one because, as I say, there's no one singular point to blame. Against Juventus, there was a heavy singular point of blame, and it's very easy to get angry at that. With this one, it's kind of more worry. It's worry about the demeanor. It's worry about the tempo we played at. It's worry about the urgency that 1 to 11 that started the game showed. It's worry about the leadership and I won't say the collectiveness because I have no reason to believe that that's not there. But it's worry about the where's the person on the field that's demanding the effort that the man on the sideline is. That's a huge worry for me. And after, we conceded after four minutes against Crystal Palace, conceded after 8 minutes against Chelsea. That's being not switched on. That's mentally an issue, and that's an issue with mindset, I'm afraid, of players, and that's the worrying thing for me because it's very difficult to iron those out mid-season.
Yeah, there's a few things you've picked up on there that we'll talk about in isolation over the course of this show. We're only going to do a maximum of half an hour because we both have young kids that would like to go and spend the rest of our Sunday afternoons with them before bedtime, to be honest. And somebody in the comments just said, fair play, Neil, 2 back-to-back podcasts talking about that game. Obviously, you've just done your own, so thank you very much for doing ours as well. Yeah, it's one of those that, kind of going back to parenthood, I suppose, it's not, I'm angry, Neil, I'm disappointed.
Yes,
that's kind of how I feel about this afternoon. I'm not particularly angry. Like the anger around Juventus was the referee and the goal disallowed, not the performance. We played all right, but today was that feeling of disappointment and almost an inevitability. I thought of we are going to lose this game. Not well with a bit of a whimper. Yeah, I don't see us really doing anything. I don't see us in the second half creating enough to get back into this and get anything from it. I felt this is over, and that's not a feeling that we've had very often under Unai Emery. And I said this a few weeks ago that, we've not seen it under Unai Emery, but we're starting to see it now. Let's hope it's just a blip. And that blip has turned into something more than that. This is now a bad run of form. This is a really bad period that Villa are in. And it's been coming. We've not been good. Obviously, we've had good games, but we've not generally been good since, February or something? Even the back end of
2023.
Yeah, one kind of small grain of hope and positivity is that we started last season well and we finished badly and still finished 4th. So maybe the reverse can be true, that we've started poorly this season and we can finish strongly in 2025. Maybe, who knows, right? That's football. But what we're seeing at the moment over the course of this, 13 games in the league and going back into last season is a trend of Villa being too easy to score goals against, too easy to beat. A lack of leadership, I think, is an important thing to highlight. And just this kind of collective sense of when it's going wrong, oh, that's it. Okay, we can't fix this. We've conceded a goal, that's it. Do you know what I mean? We can't kind of stop a crisis. Once we're in it. And that's a worrying sign now.
I know this is going to make me sound really kind of almost Neanderthal-like, or real old school, or lacking any football nuance or theory at all. But there were times out there today where you just wish somebody went and just clattered into a fella. I'm sorry, and it's very rarely you'll hear that from me. But it's it was one of those games whereby nobody was picking it up by the scruff of the neck. Nobody was making a bursting run. And actually, there was one time, Tielemans made a busting run and Enzo Fernandez literally just ran around, took the ball off him, Like literally ran past him, took the ball off him,
Yeah.
turned and ran all the way up the other end of the field. And I was like, oh, that looked awful, you know? But there was no body taking by the scruff of the neck. Arguably could have been different. The ball falls to Watkins. Watkins does brilliantly to get around Fofana. Absolutely excellently.
Yeah.
And ends up
That's
in a
the odd
super
bit.
position. And like it's a nothing finish. You might say, oh yeah, he went to go under his legs. Why the hell do you go under his legs in a situation like that?
It's so
And then
obvious
the
what he was
second
going to
one,
do as well.
yeah, he was in two minds. I think Daniel Sturridge called it perfectly. I like Daniel Sturridge on commentary, but on punditry, maybe others might disagree. But he got that one bang on anyway. I think he went in two minds and then just decided to have a swing at it and it hit his heel. And then the other one then was just a scuffed finish, the one that dropped him. And we need those chances to go in when we're on a bad run of form. And that's what I'm talking about. Someone to grab it by the scruff of the neck. Like how many times over when Harry Kane was at and if we're going to talk about Ollie Watkins being starting England striker, and I know Harry Kane is who he is and scores 30 goals every year perennially, but the the issue here is that how many times has Harry Kane just scored 2 goals on an over and Spurs have won 2-1 and they played poorly
Yeah.
in the years past. I'm not saying they're on the same level, but you know when you need somebody to pull it out of the fire, we just didn't have anybody today. We really didn't, and that's the scary part. That is the real scary part of this. That there was nobody there whose efforts, albeit they were putting in effort, made any difference at times or made
Yeah.
any change to it or could affect the game in a positive when we were on the back foot.
I don't know how quite to describe this. And it's right what you said about, there's probably a more tactical football point to be made here. But it's like almost Villa are too nice. Villa aren't ruthless enough. Villa aren't kind of killers in front of goal. And you kind of go two ways here, don't you? You don't want Villa to be cheating, or you don't want Villa to be
No.
bringing the game into disrepute by doing nasty things all the time. But just somebody having a bit of a rough and tumble. Somebody in the comments has suggested when Enzo was holding on to Ollie just before the corner, but the corner was taken, Ollie should be going, come on, ref, like making a bit of a fuss and slowing the game down, starting to disrupt Chelsea a little bit. And sometimes you do need a bit of that, someone just to leave a bit of a challenge in. Don't get yourself sent off like McGinn did against Spurs last season, but just do something that's going to maybe kick somebody into life or the crowd into life or whatever it is. And from an actual footballing perspective, Villa do occasionally get themselves into good positions, like Ollie Watkins found himself in today. A couple of occasions, a long ball over the top, saw him kind of tussle with one of the centre halves and get a half chance. But when we get into those positions, we're not ruthless either, and that's what Ollie Watkins is lacking. And I love him. I've talked about him a lot. That I think he is capable of scoring 16 to 20 goals, every season. But he gets into those positions so often that he should, or other strikers would just, like you say, bang a goal out of nowhere and you go, oh, he's had one chance today, but he scored. And Watkins doesn't do that. He gets lots of chances, and that's a good thing in a way, but doesn't take enough of them, which when Villa are winning and goals are coming from elsewhere, you can kind of let that slide. But when he looks like one of our only players to get on the score sheet, and even he's not doing it, I look around and think, is Philogene going to do anything here? Is John McGinn going to score out of nowhere? I just don't get that sense from anybody, really. And that's that's really bad, isn't it? Like, I don't know where that kind of spark is coming from.
I made a point before, just in the podcast I did there a moment ago, and I said, and look, as I say, Ollie Watkins can turn this around. He's done it every year. He goes through fits and starts of scoring and everything like that. So we're not writing his obituary here or anything like that. But what we're going to see is, and it started to happen in this game, a pat in the back is only a few inches from a kick up the ass. Remember that as well. That's my phrase with Aston Villa Football Club, and that's always the way it will be from the media, from the fans. And I think as a club we have to be aware of that. That and the reason I'm saying that is that the media have already started to put up the stats. The dreaded stat box where you were 28 goals in with the bad statistics popped up for Villa today. And I can guarantee you against Brentford, most big chances missed in the Premier League this season will pop up alongside Ollie Watkins' name. And once that starts to happen, it's very difficult to get out of that funk, specifically first. And I've no problem with him. He will get out of that funk. He will start to score goals again. He's got I no doubt he's going to get double digits this season. We could be talking about him at the end of the season breaking Gabriel Agbonlahor's record. At the way things are going at the moment, unlikely, but 2 goals today would have helped it. But he will get out of that funk. But what I'm saying is negative press is negative press, and it's warranted negative press at the moment because guess
Yeah,
what?
of course.
He has missed the most big chances in the Premier League this season, and that's something that needs to change for him and for the team itself. So, like when it's all well and good when your darlings and all these great statistics come up about having caught the team offside most in the Premier League or Europe's top 5 leagues. Like we were seeing that umpteen times last year. Now we're going to get the other side of the coin, and the team at the moment deserves it the way that they're playing.
Yeah.
And we don't want to see it, and they don't want to see it. So something needs to change from that point of view. It really does. Whether it's players need to get together and ask what they are doing wrong, or have very frank conversations with each other. I don't care if none of them get on. I don't care if they all hate each other's guts by the end of the year, as long as they start winning games. And I think they, deep down, they would think exactly the same themselves.
Yeah,
They
it's
need to start
absolutely all
winning
about
games.
winning, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. The one thing we've spoken about in recent weeks is that Villa, conceding goals is their own fault. They'll do something stupid, and we didn't concede a goal from this, but it just kind of adds to that level of what are we doing here? And that's the title I've gone with for this, about Villa, kind of what's happened to us. That indirect free kick thing. What the hell?
Yeah.
what is it a back pass or not? You can argue over the semantics over did Torres put enough on it to warrant it, but even again, it's giving the officials, which we all know are not up to standard, a chance to go and do something silly. And obviously Villa don't concede from that, and we actually defend it pretty well. But again, it's just this: how often have you seen an indirect free kick, the thumb in football like that? It doesn't happen. It doesn't happen every week, does it? We've seen them, obviously. But the thumbnail for this is that that frame of like 10 players on the line. It looks bizarre, and it just feels like if you're a neutral on Match of the Day or whatever, you go, oh, Villa were involved in that like stupid thing again, like that handball thing of Tara Mings. That doesn't happen, but that was Villa. This indirect free kick thing doesn't happen very often, but that was Villa. Like, it always seems that we're doing something really foolish and really silly.
Do we have a foul throw as well today? Did I dream that?
I'm not sure.
I might have dreamt that. I mentioned it on my own podcast as well, but something makes me think we had a foul throw as well today. But yes,
that was given. They gave a foul throw.
There was a silly, that was silly. That back pass. Look, if in doubt, kick it out. Like that goes in the back of the net. Look, there was a lot of things that people can have a go at Villa for in that game. But imagine that going into the back of the net. It would never stop. It would never stop. The video clip of that would never stop. And because it's so bizarre. But also the Martinez passing the ball to Nicholas Jackson in his own 6-yard box. And makes an unbelievable save. Look, and that's what I'm talking about, leadership. We've often gone for Martinez for leadership, saving penalties, coming for crosses, making himself big and stuff like that. But the leadership wasn't there from him today. It wasn't there from John McGinn today. It wasn't there from Yuri Tielemans. I thought Yuri Tielemans was decidedly poor today. It wasn't there from Ollie Watkins. It wasn't there from either of our two centre halves, and it wasn't there from Morgan Rogers or Boubacar Kamara. And what's that? I've only left out probably our two fullbacks who were on their back foot all day long and didn't have a minute's peace. So, it's that's the worrying part there, that there's enough experience there to be able to turn around for somebody to galvanize a team and say, right, snap out of it, lads. Here. And once again, it's very simplistic what I'm saying here. Maybe it does happen. We don't see it, but as I say, it's something that Villa have been traditionally not very good at, having an on-field somebody that people look up to, and all the good teams have them. And, we don't seem to have somebody who not strikes the fear of God into you, but somebody when they turn around, they demand more from you. Their game goes up another level, and then because of their performance, their lead by doing, everybody else's game is dragged down by an extra 5%, and we just didn't have that today. We haven't had it for a while.
Yeah. What do you think has changed? If I ask you the question of the title, what has happened to Unai Emery's Aston Villa? What's changed to show that we're not as good as we were? Because as we said at the start, this isn't an isolated period of just this season. There were poor games at the back end of the last half as well. So you can't just say, oh, Douglas Luiz and DRB have gone, because they played in games last year when Villa didn't look very good either. But something has happened somewhere along the lines where Villa just don't look as good as we thought they were. And there's an element to say last year was an overachievement, but this year you would say is an underachievement. I don't think 12th is our level. whereas fourth probably maybe wasn't our level last year either. But when I say overachieved,
What?
I only mean very slightly. I think we are a top 6 or top 7 side,
Yeah, me
and
too.
this is an underperformance.
What's changed is two things, and you could arguably say what's changed is that nothing has changed in a way. Is
Yeah.
like have we been not found out to a want of a better degree, but are we going? Excuse me, with the same tactics, but because we're getting nothing out wide, we're getting no purchase out wide at all, which slows absolutely everything down. I think that's really what's changed. We're not getting that lightning run from Bailey, that cut inside and score, the breaking ability from Bailey. We're certainly getting nothing on the left hand side. Like the left hand side and the right hand side are desert areas. There's nothing created other than chaos out there, and chaos for our backline at the moment. Whereas last year we were creating things from out wide. We were getting people running diagonals from out wide, and we're just not able to do that anymore. It's the barren area of our field, big style. And then by the time we get the ball up to Ollie Watkins, he's so isolated 9 times out of 10 that, you've got somebody dragging themselves up the field 20 times a game. And there's only so much of that you're going to do because the spacing is so off, because our wingers are not an outlet at the moment. We have to go through the middle currently, or we have to slow it right down and try and manufacture situations or try and win the ball high up the field. And because we can't move at pace, because our wingers aren't working, it's really, really hamstringing us. And it makes, like, any team in the Premier League that happens to, they become impotent straight away. It's a phenomenon of football. If you can only attack one way, you will be stopped.
Yeah,
it has to. You
because
have to have variety.
It's easy to know what's coming, isn't it?
Absolutely, we can't vary it up at the moment. Can it be fixed again? I want to parse everything. Can it be fixed? It absolutely can. It really can be fixed. Like, for me, I've been saying it since the start of the season. I'd love to, and I said it during the game. I said, "What's to be lost by trying 3 centre halves? What's to be lost?"
Do you think
by
we're now
that?
at that point where because we're absolutely both on the same page here of, and I don't even need to clarify, but I am going to. This is not throw the baby out with the bathwater territory of
No,
we
God,
need to
no.
make 10 changes, we need to sell this player, we need to get a new manager, all that, obviously not. But are we at the point where the system that we're playing or the structure that we're playing, which is so important to Emery, is fundamentally flawed and does need to change in some way, whether that is 3 at the back or 2 up front or something like that?
And that's where I would go with something like, I don't see what's to be lost by going with 3 at the back currently. And for those interested, I think if you go 3 at the back, you have to bring Tyrone Mings in there and play him centrally, and play Pau Torres left and play Konza right of him. I think you have to. Look, that's a debate in itself. I'm willing to see the comments roll in there going, no, he picked the ball up against Bruges. He's error prone, blah, 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 blah. He's not up to 90 minutes. That's fine. I completely agree with all those as well. All those are all factual pieces of information. But I think, once again, do we want to get leadership into the team? He's been the leader of the team prior to going out. We may not like his leadership style, but at least he has one, I would bring in him. I don't see what's to be lost by trying 3 at the back. I think now, and a 3-day turnaround before Wednesday, it's mad. I think it'd be mad to do it. I think we have what we have. I don't think we see this change to 3 at the back until probably into the new year, maybe the week of our winter break. There's just too much on the line to do it, I think. But for me, absolutely have at it. We talk about Watkins and Duran can't play up top together. They've played what? Less than 200 minutes of football up top together this season. It's impossible to know whether they can or they can't. Give it a go. See what happens. Play the 3 at the back. Make sure Kamara doesn't move too far from the centre circle, and basically almost hang 4 back and attack with 6 and see what happens. Because if you can't defend with 4 and attack with 6, then there's way bigger issues here. There's way bigger issues there if that's the case.
Yeah.
It's very, once again, overly simplistic, I know, but I don't see what's to be lost by it.
I think we are at that stage. We spoke, I don't know what it was. It probably wasn't that long ago. So let's say a couple of weeks, about Villa changing all the time, especially at the back. I said to Matt something like, do we need to make changes against X? And he was like, well, no, because I think we're changing too much. We need to find some kind of consistency with what we've got. And I agree with that to a certain extent, but something has to change. You can't just keep doing the same thing over and over and expect things to be different. We're going to get the same outcome again. So whether that is 3 at the back, which I'm not sure we will see at all. I think if that does happen, that would be something that would happen over the course of a summer window. We'd recruit specifically for that setup. But I would like to at least see getting certain physical profiles into the game, which obviously at the moment,
Me too.
depending on injuries, it's our hands are tied. But Onana may not be the fix for every single problem we have, but having that physicality in there, I think, is important. Having the legs in there, Matson's pace,
he's not the
Ramsey's
fix,
running.
But in a 3-5-2, with his ranginess, and look, let's call a spade here. I think really, if you go with a 3 in midfield, it's probably going to be Tielemans, Kamara and Onana, I would imagine. But put it this way, I'd have no problem. Like if Tielemans needs a couple of games to recalibrate as well. He's been our best player this season. We have the opportunity to play McGinn. We've got the horses in the centre midfield to try 3 in there and play 2 up top.
Yeah.
We could still play Rodgers left-hand side, but he's got more license to go nuts on the left-hand side if he wants. We could still play Bailey right-hand side. I think if we were to get our wingers into it, we need to be more competitive in midfield and allow them be wingers. And if you drop a Kamara back, yes, there's Pau Torres can move out to left back. You can have Mings, Kamara, and Konza as a back 4. It's not ideal, but what I'm saying is out of possession, you could quickly get into that setup. Again, it's massively oversimplistic here, but to get us firing, we need to be able to go through the middle. And I think 2 strikers would do that. I think we need to start going a bit longer at times as well. And the way to do that is have the 2 lads up front. But then when the ball breaks, our 2 wingers playing a small bit further forward they could be just closer to the strikers if we play 3 at the back and then 3. I'm talking about a straight 3 in midfield or defensive midfielder and 2 in front of him in midfield. I'm talking about, be solid above everything else and then see what happens then when we go forward. Again, I know it's overly simplistic, and if there was anybody who's done any UEFA badges listening to this, they're probably rolling around the floor. And I'm well aware of it, but there will need to be a tweak because today did not work. Crystal Palace did not work.
Lots of games haven't worked.
Bruges hasn't worked. Bruges didn't work. Yeah, like lots of games in this 8-match run haven't worked. But Bournemouth didn't work. We got a goal, and it was agonizing to concede in 90 whatever minute, but it didn't work. Ipswich didn't work. United didn't work.
Yeah, it is worrying. This is a bigger trend now than more than just a blip. But some of the things that we're talking about as well are down to confidence. Like a fit and firing Ollie Watkins probably gets a goal today in the positions that he got into. I know that might sound like a long stretch considering he's not scored for a while, but on paper that should happen. A win would be nice, wouldn't it? Like we've kind of all forgotten what it's like to win games consistently. We got so used to that over the course of 18 months, and now it feels like it did. I don't know, 4 years ago, 6 years ago. Pick any point of Villa over the last 20 years, and this is kind of what happens. We don't win for long periods in a row, and then we win a couple, then we lose a lot. But the recent Villa fans have probably forgot what it's like to win games. So it would be nice to win on Wednesday. We've got a couple of winnable home games coming up. If you were to win them both, things look different, things feel different.
Absolutely.
And that makes a big change. So this is absolutely not crisis time, sound the alarms, we're in massive trouble. That's not what I'm saying. Another 8 games without a win, time to have a different conversation.
Another 8 games without a win. If you have me on, you'll definitely need the bleep button. You'll definitely win. I don't know if anyone will hear my bleep button.
Oh, wow, you've got a bleep button.
I've got a bleep button. Yeah, watch this. Look.
Oh. Do you want to risk saying something and bleep it?
I don't trust any delay between pressing the button, and I'll do it on my own podcast, but not here. I have to. Have you ever seen Paddy? I need to have a bleep button at times. I never use it, but
would have been an overdrive after Juventus. You didn't need it that night.
I didn't think it worked, and then I was pressing it like a madman at the end of that podcast, and everyone was like, "Okay, we get it. It works." And I was like, "Okay," because I can't hear it.
Oh, good. No, it does work. It works on other people's podcasts as well, so that's good to know. The one final thing I wanted to ask you about is a word that has come up in the comments quite a lot about passion. There's no passion is the kind of consensus of this Villa side. There's no energy, no desire, no passion, no urgency, that kind of vibe of a lack of caring or a lack of wanting it. Do you think that's correct or not?
I'm slow to go to that because every single one, like these players aren't mercenaries. When I think of the word and everybody's definition of the word passion like that can be different, but there's also a train of thought that you don't want every one of those 11 players to be emotional either on the field, because if you have 11 nutcases out in the field, like that's a recipe for disaster. So you don't want too much passion, and when I talk about passion, like I think here I am after saying that we needed someone to clatter into somebody today, show a small bit of get up and go or turn around and start balling players out of it. But I don't think you need everybody doing it. I'm not there with the whole these players aren't passionate, because they obviously believe. You just listen to them in interviews, and I know they're media trained. They believe in this manager. They believe in this club. They believe in that they've had success, that they want to have further success. We see it in the Champions League, that they play way better in the Champions League. I don't know. I'm going to sit in the fence here. I don't know, but I used the word to you earlier on that I don't think, and I've calmed down enough now. I'm not going to repeat it, but because I don't think it's fair to use. I don't think it was fair to use that overarching an overarching word like that, like passion or something, or like you can talk about lacking desire and stuff in singular games, but I don't think over the course of 38 games that you could label that at this team, because the definition of passion in a lot of ways is different, and not everybody needs to be that nutcase in the field. We just need one. I would go so far as to say we're lacking one person that is overly passionate in the field. That's the way I'll push back on it. That would be my answer. Yes, we need one person that needs to be overly passionate and show it on the field.
Okay, I mean, you can tell strictly on what the definition is by literally two comments next to each other. From Matthew said, "No passion is unfair," and Michael said, "No passion for sure."
Passion for sure.
Everybody will feel differently about it, and as I said, a win will do the world of good for everybody.
Rob
Warner does not come.
Actually has a brilliant comment in there. He said, "It's not passion; it's pragmatism." They probably are being too pragmatic at the moment. They're probably trying to, not make mistakes, and then something comes good, and then okay, right, we can build on this. Whereas today, you could see that you could argue they were trying not to make mistakes, but literally, it was like they were playing with two left hands, never mind left feet. At times, trying to pass the ball around. It was noticeable that there was a bit of nervousness, a bit of edginess there today, and that's where you need the leader to show up. That's where you need the leader to show up.
Okay, well, Neil, thank you very much for joining me and doing two podcasts in a row about that game. Really appreciate your time, as always. Thank you to everyone who watched live on the YouTube channel and for getting involved in the comment section. I'll read those later. We will not have a Q&A for you on Monday, but it will be out on Tuesday morning. So John and I will have a chat about this tomorrow, have a bit more of a deep dive into Villa's problems and issues. So if you've got any questions, get in touch. Thanks for watching or listening to this episode of the Club League podcast, and we'll see you Tuesday. Enjoy your weekend, everyone.